In the heart of Africa, where the sun burns brightest, lay the sun-kissed kingdom, a land of golden grasses, ancient baobabs, and harmony among all creatures. Young King Kale, with a mane like sun-bleached straw and eyes full of hope, watched over his realm from Pride Rock, guided by the wisdom of his late father. His best friend, Zazu the clever meerkat, was always at his side, sharing news and laughter as they explored the savannah together. But beneath the beauty, Kale was about to learn that true leadership means facing not just the sunshine, but the storms that threaten the land. Trouble began as a whisper, so faint that only the most attentive ears could sense it. In the cool hush of dawn, the land seemed to hold its breath, as if waiting for something to break the silence. The animals stirred uneasily, their instincts alert to a change they could not yet name. The wind carried rumors of unease, rustling through the brittle grass and over the cracked earth, hinting at a story unfolding beneath the surface. The great river, once a mighty ribbon of life winding through the heart of the kingdom, was fading. Its waters, which had nourished countless generations, now trickled weakly, exposing stones that had not seen sunlight in decades. The river's song, once a constant companion to all who lived nearby, grew quieter with each passing day, replaced by the ominous silence of thirst. Zebras and giraffes, usually calm and graceful, now gathered in uneasy clusters, their eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of relief. They spoke in anxious murmurs of shrinking waters and dry riverbeds, their voices echoing the growing fear that spread across the plains. Even the birds, once jubilant in their morning songs, now called out in worried tones as if pleading for rain that would not come. Kale, the Lion King, saw the truth with his own eyes. The river was vanishing before him, its banks receding, its fish stranded and gasping in shallow pools, crocodiles restless and agitated on the dry riverbank. The land itself seemed to groan under the weight of its thirst, the mud cracking open like old wounds, and the once lush grasses turning brittle and brown. This was no enemy Kale could fight with tooth or claw. It was a silent, creeping threat that seeped into every corner of his kingdom. The drought was invisible, yet its effects were everywhere, felt in the hollow bellies of the young, seen in the desperate eyes of the old, and heard in the restless shuffling of hooves and paws. The animals grew anxious, their patience fraying as the days stretched on without relief. At the shrinking watering holes, tempers flared and old alliances were tested. Dust rose in thick clouds as herds jostled and quarreled for a sip of muddy water, the air heavy with the scent of fear and desperation. Even the bravest among them felt the weight of uncertainty pressing down. Kale felt helpless, the weight of his crown heavier than ever before. He paced the dry savannah, searching for answers in the parched earth and cloudless sky. The kingdom looked to him for hope, but he had none to give. Each day the silence grew louder, and the eyes of his subjects grew more desperate, waiting for a miracle that seemed further away with every sunset. He knew that if he failed, his reign would be remembered not for the peace he had kept or the strength he had shown, but for the thirst and sorrow that had swept across the land. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of fire and ash, Kale stood alone, listening to the whispers of a thirsty land, and wondered if hope would ever return. As the sun dipped low and painted the sky in hues of gold and crimson, Kale, the Lion King, felt the weight of his kingdom's troubles pressing down on his heart. The great river, lifeblood of the savannah, was shrinking, and with it, the hope of every creature who called these lands home. Knowing he could not face this crisis alone, Kale sent out a call that echoed across the plains, through the forests, and over the hills, a summons to all the leaders of the animal kingdom to gather beneath the ancient baobab tree, the oldest and wisest in the land. One by one the leaders arrived, each bringing with them the hopes and fears of their herds, flocks, and families. Elephants lumbered in with quiet dignity, cheetahs padded silently through the tall grass, and baboons chattered nervously as they climbed the lower branches. Even the shy antelope and the wise old tortoise made their way to the council, drawn by the urgency in Kale's call. Under the sprawling shade of the baobab, Kale stood tall, his mane catching the last rays of sunlight. He looked at the gathered animals, his voice steady but filled with concern. "Friends, the great river is fading. Its waters no longer reach the farthest corners of our home. I have tried to find answers, but this is a challenge too great for one alone. I need your wisdom, your courage, and your strength. Together, perhaps we can save what we all cherish." For a moment, silence hung in the air, heavy as the coming night. Then Mama Tembo, the revered elephant matriarch, stepped forward. Her eyes, deep and knowing, met Kale's. "The river's source lies in the Whispering Mountains," she said, her voice calm and resolute. "If we are to understand why the water is vanishing, we must journey there and seek the truth at its beginning." A ripple of agreement moved through the council. The cheetah nodded, her eyes bright with determination. The old buffalo stamped his hoof in support. Even the smallest creatures like the meerkats and the birds chirped and chattered their assent. The journey ahead would be long and filled with unknown dangers, but in that moment hope flickered anew in every heart. Kale looked around at the faces of his friends and allies, realizing that their unity was their greatest strength. No single animal could solve this crisis, but together, their combined wisdom and courage could light the way forward. The council was no longer just a gathering. It was a promise to stand together, no matter what challenges lay ahead. Each animal pledged to help in their own way. The elephants would clear paths through the thickest brush, the cheetahs would scout ahead, and the birds would keep watch from above. Even the smallest creatures offered what they could. Meerkats would dig for water, and the tortoise would share his knowledge of the land. Every contribution, no matter how small, was valued. With a plan in place, a brave party was chosen to journey to the river's mysterious source. As the first stars appeared in the sky, the chosen animals prepared to set out, carrying with them the hopes of the entire kingdom. The rest of the council would remain behind, ready to support their friends and protect the savannah. As the small group began their trek toward the distant mountains, every animal in the savannah watched with bated breath. The fate of the kingdom now rested on their courage, their cooperation, and the unbreakable bond that united them all. Kale led the expedition himself, joined by Zazu, Jabari the strong young elephant, and Koro the swift cheetah. Together they crossed scorching plains, thorny forests, and rocky hills, each challenge forging their bond. Kale learned that true leadership meant sharing hardship, listening to advice, and putting others first. Jabari cleared paths, Koro scouted ahead, and Zazu's sharp eyes kept them safe. The journey was grueling, but their unity kept them moving forward. Kale was not just their king, he was their companion. By the time they reached the mountains, they were a true team, ready for whatever awaited. In the shadowy canyon, they found the problem, a massive dam, guarded by Sobek, a giant crocodile claiming the river for himself. "Turn back," Sobek hissed. "This water is mine now." Kale pleaded for the kingdom, but Sobek challenged them with a riddle. "I have a mouth, but never speak, a bed but never sleep, a source but no end. What am I?" The team struggled, fear rising as the fate of the kingdom hung on the answer. Sobek's selfishness seemed insurmountable. The dam loomed, the river trapped, and hope began to fade. But Kale refused to give up. The answer, and the future of the kingdom, rested on their wits. Zazu, the smallest among them, whispered the answer, "It's the river." Kale declared it boldly, and Sobek, stunned, grudgingly admitted their cleverness. But Sobek sneered, "Words can't move this dam. My strength is greater than your riddles." Kale replied, "I didn't come with words alone. I came with strength, speed, and wisdom. Together we are stronger than you." The team stood united, their bond unbreakable. Sobek had never faced such unity. Kale's leadership was not about power, but about bringing others together. The real strength of the kingdom was in their cooperation. Now, they needed the help of every creature to free the river. As the first rays of dawn painted the savannah in gold, Kale, the Lion King, knew the time had come. With a sense of urgency, he sent his swiftest messenger, Koro the cheetah, racing home across the endless grasslands to summon the entire kingdom. Koro's paws barely touched the earth as he sped through the tall grass, his heart pounding with the weight of his mission. The fate of the river, and all who depended on it, rested on his speed and determination. Koro's message spread like wildfire, carried on the wind and echoed in the calls of birds and the stomping of hooves. "The king calls for all, big and small, to save the river," he cried, his voice ringing out over the plains. From the farthest corners of the savannah, animals paused, listened, and began to move. The urgency in Koro's call was unmistakable, and none could ignore it. Animals of every kind answered the call. Mighty elephants lumbered forward, their trunks raised high. Buffalo gathered in tight herds, their horns gleaming in the morning light. Agile baboons leapt from tree to tree, chattering excitedly, while aardvarks emerged from their burrows, blinking in the sun. Even the shyest creatures, usually hidden from sight, joined the march north. The savanna was alive with movement, a living river of fur, feathers, and scales. United by a common cause, the animals became a living force, each bringing their unique strengths to the task ahead. Elephants offered their immense power, buffalo their stubborn resolve, baboons their nimble hands, and aardvarks their skill at digging. Birds soared overhead, guiding the way, while antelope and zebras kept watch for danger. For the first time in memory, the savanna's many voices sang in harmony. On the riverbank, Sobek the crocodile watched in disbelief as the savanna arrived at his doorstep. Never before had he seen such unity among his neighbors. Creatures he once considered rivals or prey now moved as one. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and even the mighty Sobek felt a flicker of uncertainty. The animals wasted no time. Elephants pushed aside massive boulders that blocked the river's flow, their trunks straining with effort. Buffalo shifted heavy logs, clearing a path for the water. Baboons scrambled over the dam, tossing away tangled branches and debris, while aardvarks dug tirelessly at the dam's base, their claws churning the earth. Each animal played a vital role, their actions perfectly coordinated. The sound of their effort rose into the air, a mighty roar of unity that echoed across the plains. It was a symphony of determination, the trumpeting of elephants, the grunts of buffalo, the chatter of baboons, and the rhythmic digging of aardvarks. The very earth seemed to vibrate with their combined willpower. The dam, once an immovable obstacle, now trembled under the relentless pressure of the United Kingdom. Stones shifted, logs creaked, and water began to seep through the cracks. The animals pressed on, refusing to yield, their eyes fixed on the promise of flowing water. In that moment, the kingdom was no longer divided by fear or rivalry, but united by a shared purpose. Old grudges were forgotten, and new bonds were forged in the heat of their struggle. The savanna had become a single unstoppable force, determined to restore life to the land. The river's freedom was within reach. As the animals worked together, hope surged through the kingdom. Soon the water would flow once more, bringing life and renewal to every corner of the savanna. The dam finally gave way, and the great river surged forth, bringing life back to the plains. Sobek, humbled, watched as the water returned, his power washed away by the strength of community. Kale approached him not with anger but with compassion. "The river is for everyone, there is enough for all." Sobek nodded, learning the value of sharing. The animals rejoiced, following the river home. Kale walked among them, no longer just a young lion but a true king. He had led not with force but with wisdom, courage, and faith in his people. The river's return brought hope, unity, and a new beginning for the sun-kissed kingdom. The kingdom celebrated as the river flowed once more, the land blooming with life and joy. Kale stood on Pride Rock, his mane golden in the sun, no longer a boy but a leader in his own right. He had forged a new path, one of trust, courage, and unity. His friends, Zazu, Jabari, and Koro, stood proudly by his side, heroes of the savanna. Kale knew the greatest strength was found in the hearts of many working as one. His reign was remembered for wisdom, friendship, and the lesson that every voice matters. The river of life flowed strongest when it flowed for everyone.